I'm Elizabeth Partin, and I'm going to be presenting a dental health initiative and promotion based on reducing untreated dental decay in preschool-aged children. This presentation will focus on the Healthy People 2020 Initiative OH2, which is to reduce the proportion of children and adolescents with untreated dental decay, and the subsequent category OH 2.1, which is to reduce the proportion of children aged 3 to 5 years with untreated dental decay in their primary teeth. Our target population is the 21.4% of 3 to 5-year-olds who currently have untreated dental decay. Our baseline information is that 23.8% of children aged 3 to 5 years had untreated dental decay in at least one primary tooth in the year 1999 to 2004. Our target setting method is a 10% improvement. The data for this initiative comes from the National Health and Nutrition Examination Survey. Some of our data disparities will be sex, race and ethnicity, and income. On this slide, we have images of what a normal 3 to 5-year-old with untreated dental decay would present as clinically. The next two slides will go over some of the information gathered in studies that led to the need for this initiative. The first is a cross-sectional study using internet-based surveys. The purpose was to determine whether there was a difference between state-funded child care centers and non-state funded child care centers in Wisconsin with regard to their oral health practices. The results were that a logistical regression analysis showed non-state funded centers were 3 times more likely to have some kind of oral health practice and 5 times more likely to have some kind of oral health education. However, the state-funded centers were 5 times more likely to implement toothbrushing as a routine classroom activity. The second study's purpose was to identify research-based evidence for an effect on antimicrobial therapeutic approaches on the karyogenic microbiota and early childhood caries outcomes. This was a systematic review and meta-analysis, and they were conducted according to the methods of the Cochrane Handbook. So multiple searches on PubMed, Ovid Medicine, the Library of Congress, the Web of Science core collection, and the Cochrane database were looked at. The results were moderate reductions in karyogenic bacterial levels, mainly in strep mutants, were demonstrated following the use of antimicrobial agents. The most important finding from the study for our initiative was that reducing mother's streptococcus mutants significantly lowered the strep mutants in children. The proposed program for this initiative is based on research and is a 3-part program. Part 1 would be a school-based oral hygiene practice where all children in voluntary pre-kindergarten would participate in 2 minutes of supervised toothbrushing following all snacks if they are half-day VPK participants or after lunch if they are full-day VPK participants. Part 2 is home care information that will be sent home quarterly with children for parents to read, sign to acknowledge receipt of information, and return back to school. Along with home care information, these papers information on Florida Healthy Kids program that serves the medical and dental needs of underprivileged children. It is important to note that educating and involving parents is imperative to the success of this program. The research used to justify this initiative shows that decreasing decay in mothers will subsequently reduce decay in their children. Part 3 is that the school would receive free supplies for their toothbrushing program if they participate in quarterly oral hygiene instruction for both educated students. This would be administered by a trained dental professional. This is an example of the steps you would take to initiate our program. First, we would present data to local school boards. We would show them statistics about the effects of early childhood caries on mental and physical well-being. Then we would discuss the benefits of school-based hygiene practices and instruction. Next, we would develop a plan for implementation. We would look at who will instruct educators on proper technique, instruct the children, and will parents be involved and to what extent. Next, we will implement our program. We'll hold our training class for educators and school administrators. We'll start toothbrushing after all snacks and meals in school. We will have quarterly oral hygiene instruction with trained dental professionals, and we will send home information on oral hygiene and early childhood caries for parents to read and sign. We will evaluate our data. Was this program effective based on our indices, and where can the program improve? The environment we will initiate this program will be all VPK providers willing to participate in Hillsborough County. The target audience for this initiative is children aged 3 to 5. Most of that population is already in state-funded voluntary pre-kindergarten. The environment is ideal because the facilities are already receiving state funding, the children are at the facility for a set time each day, and the facility has already had to undergo state certification, so they meet the requirements for a sink or wash area that could be used to implement toothbrushing. Some challenges we may encounter would be class size and how well each group can be monitored, teacher motivation, parent participation, and professionals to administer the quarterly education. For this program to be effective, we will need a variety of people to carry out the tasks. First, we need dental professionals to administer the initial education for VPK teachers, nurses, and administrators, as well as for the quarterly education required for schools to their free supplies. These could be local dentists, dental hygienists, or dental hygiene students. Second, we will need the educators, school nurses, and administrative staff at the VPK facilities to carry out the day-to-day tasks of implementing and overseeing the oral hygiene practices. Our resources and funding will come from some various sources. Mainly, we would look to state and local governments, research grants, and dental hygiene companies such as Crest, Colgate, or Oral-B. Existing funds may be available from the Healthy People 2020 initiative. Local dentists may also want to invest in these programs by donating their time along with their hygienists. Local hygiene programs may also donate their time to educate their students on the importance of working in the community. Companies that manufacture toothbrushes and toothpaste may want to donate their supplies for the access they would gain to this population and as a philanthropic act. I believe no fundraising should be needed. To help incentivize the schools to participate in this program, it should be totally funded by outside sources. The objective for this program is to decrease the amount of untreated dental decay in children 3 to 5 years of age. The method used to achieve this goal will be to decrease the amount of overall decay by increasing education for preventive methods. The method of focus will be proper brushing after meals and parent education on the effects of sugars and acids in their child's diet. We have 3 outcome goals. Number 1 is to reduce the DMF score by 10% in the studied population. Number 2, reach 60% participation in all aspects of the program for state-funded VPK programs. And number 3, to decrease untreated decay by decreasing total decay in the population. This is a visual flowchart showing the objectives of the program and our 3 separate goals that we would like to reach through this objective. We will use a variety of indices to measure and assess the effectiveness of our program. First, and mainly, we will use the DMFT, or Decayed, Missing, or Filled Primary Teeth Indice. This indice measures the sum total of each category of D, M, F, and T based on the occurrence on each tooth surface. This will be the primary method of evaluation for effectiveness because it most accurately measures the program and what the program is trying to solve. We will also use the PHP, or Patient Hygiene Performance Indice. This assesses the extent of plaque and debris over facial surfaces of incisors and maxillary molars and the lingual surface of mandibular molars. This is to help identify the effectiveness of the children's oral hygiene practice after professional instruction and supervised practice. We will also evaluate the data pertaining to the percentage of parents who signed our take-home information. This program will be evaluated for effectiveness over the course of a school year. Our baseline information will be collected at the initial education and disbursement of materials. First evaluations will be made 2 weeks after program implementation, and adjustments can be made at this time. Subsequent evaluations and adjustments will be made at the required quarterly educational visits. Our final data will be collected at the conclusion of the school year. This information will be looked at as a quantitative study. Our numerical data will be collected to determine the effect on indices from school-based toothbrushing practices and parent-teacher education. For a descriptive analysis, we will describe the areas of data disparity, which are age, race and ethnicity, and income. For our inferential analysis, we will compare our DMFT and PHP scores at each visit, and those increments again will be 2 weeks after implementation, quarterly at every educational meeting, and at the conclusion of the school year. We will analyze our data in 2 different ways. Our descriptive analysis will be measures of central tendency, such as mean, median, and mode, for all outcomes pertaining to our goals. Measures of dispersion will be used to analyze how the central tendencies of our outcomes represent the population as a whole. If we find these measures of dispersion are within scientific significance, we will then look at inferential analysis of our data. This will be used to represent the population as a whole and make a display easier to understand and draw correlations from. For example, we will examine if there is a relationship between the decrease in DMFT scores and increase in parent signature acquisition. To display our data results, we will use a variety of graphs. A line graph will be used for our central tendencies to identify positive or negative trends in the data. A histogram will be used for our measures of dispersion to easily identify normal distribution or a bell curve. And a cluster bar graph will help to show correlation between all of our indices. Lastly, we will look at statistical decision making. The null hypothesis for this program is that implementing a school-based dental hygiene practice with an education component will not decrease untreated dental decay in 3 to 5-year-olds. The alternative hypothesis is that implementing a school-based supervised toothbrushing program with an educational component will decrease untreated dental decay in 3 to 5-year-olds. The p-value for this study will be set at 0.01 or 1%. Decision to reject or accept is based on probability at a set significance expressed as a p-value. Any p-value greater than 0.05 is considered statistically insignificant in relation to oral hygiene. When rejecting and accepting a null hypothesis, there are 2 types of errors that can occur. The first type of error is that if your null hypothesis is not accepted and it ends up being correct, you have made a type 1 or an alpha error. The second type of error is that if your null hypothesis is accepted and it is not true, you have made a type 2 error or a beta error. That concludes this presentation. I hope that you are informative and I hope that you have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you so much.